I've been in sales for 15 years. I've sold to small companies, I've sold to medium-sized companies, I've sold to FTSE 100 companies, and I've even sold to a £1 trillion company. Whether you like it or not, you will have to sell in all avenues of your life. Whether that is selling to a consumer, as in a customer, whether that's selling to a company, whether that's buying a product or a service and you have to negotiate, you will have to sell. And sales is one of the most important skills you can learn in business. And so I'm going to share hours and hours of content, free value on sales, selling to businesses, selling to customers, and more importantly, not doing the hard sell. You see, sales is never about selling hard. It used to be, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, where you would convince the person who you were trying to sell to as you were a person of authority, where you're really trying to convince someone to buy your product or service. Actually, the new way of doing sales is providing value. It's actually about over providing on the value and not doing a hard sell. And I'm going to teach you every single way, all in this video. So take notes, take your time, pause and rewind if you have to, because something I might say today, in fact, I am certain that things I say today will still be of value to you in 10, 15 years. And so this one video could change your whole entire perspective on your business and in sales. So a few years ago, people used to do sales in regards to hard sales. That's what used to do well. And when I say a few years, I mean 10, 15 years ago. A lot of people would teach you, sell me a product or sell me a product or a service, and you would start talking about how that product and service was good. That's actually a terrible way to do sales. Trust me when I say this, I really understand sales in terms of phones, in terms of dealing with clients. I've sat opposite billionaires. I've sat in front of people who are just starting off. And by the way, it does vary. But nobody likes to be sold to. That's something we have to understand. If nobody likes to be sold to, then you're not going to sell something by selling it. Because let's be honest, most of us now, when we're watching someone doing a video, when we're hearing someone on the phone, or at any point, if we feel like we are being sold to, we go into our defensive mode. We don't really want to hear it. We feel like the person is doing something wrong. Instead, what you have to do is you try to provide value. Now, the only way you can provide value is by finding out how to provide value. Now, trust me. Take your time. If something didn't make sense, just go back and watch it again. But providing value is the most important part of doing sales. And so the wrong way in this is, have you ever heard people say, cut the price, have a discount, or tell people you're going to increase the price? It creates FOMO, and so people will tend to buy. And, that's how you increase your sales. A terrible way. It's barbaric why you would want to sell yourself like that. Now, it's all well and good sometimes. It is all well and good sometimes, but very, very, very rarely. And let's give you an idea. When you're selling, you don't just want to be someone who underprices or is cheap. That's actually a terrible way to do sales, and that's actually a terrible way to price your product or service. And think of it like this. Some of the biggest brands in the world don't run sales. Some of the biggest brands in the world, they concentrate on their brand. Apple, Louis Vuitton, Dior. These companies, they don't run sales, they don't discount. They might do one-off things I don't know about, but the reality is they're a brand. And so you should focus on, your brand, and that's in a perspective of when you're dealing with a product. And even if it's a service, you want to brand yourself as someone who over-delivers on the product, over-delivers on the service, and therefore keeps the amount high. See, a lot of people think that we're just going to price down and we're just going to be super cheap, and that's how we're going to win business. It's true that you might win business by undercutting the market. That is true, but actually that might not be the right decision for your business. Because if you can over provide and provide a ton of value, then people will pay you for the service that you provide. Now, there will be companies who won't be able to afford you, and that's okay. But you want to be in a situation where you are providing at least the average in the market, if not more. And it's better to provide more. A statement which I hold quite closely actually is, if something is easily accessible, it's less desirable. Now listen to that again. If something is easily accessible, it's less desirable. And, you can use that statement in many ways. You can use that in terms of a good guy, a good woman, maybe even the Apple products. right? Sometimes in the beginning, of course, they're very difficult to get a hold of, right? Even when you look at Matalan or Primark or H&M, those products are easily accessible to the masses, and so they're less desirable. It's very difficult to actually be priced exactly right. It's very difficult to be priced perfect. And so when you see yourself branding yourself well, like the Louis Vuittons, like the Dior's, and it's not to say I'm telling you guys to become Louis Vuitton, and I'm not telling you guys to become Dior, and it's not about clothing either. It's actually about pricing, because how much of a difference does price make? Let's do the numbers. If your product, whatever your product is, was priced at £49.99, let's say it's a £50 product, and another product, let's say the same thing, was priced at £37.99, let's say it's a £12 difference. Now £12 isn't a huge amount. I'm sure we can agree on that, right? But again, because it's not a massive product, and because that product's a low price product, we can assume actually you would look to sell a lot of that product, whatever that might well be. And so if you say you sell 1,000 of those products, now I'm not saying 1,000 products is easy to sell, by the way, in a month, right? It is difficult, of course, but it's very likely in 3-4 years time. How much of a difference does that make? That's £12,000 a month, which means £140,000 or above that, obviously £144,000 of a difference it makes a year. Just £12 for a product. And so that difference isn't even a lot. Having said that, if you now compare yourself to a £39.99 product, and then you compare yourself to a £99 product. So if your product, let's say it's a t-shirt, right? And you're going for the mass market, $39.99, you now need to sell 1,000 and you will make £40,000, and out of that, let's say you make £30,000 profit. If it's priced at $99.99, you only need to sell just over 300 products to make the same amount. That's crazy. So where you might have to sell 1,000, you only need to sell 300, 350. And actually, it's also the case of if something takes less time, obviously it is better for you. In terms of if selling 1,000 products means obviously I have to, deliver 1,000 products and packaging and logistics, it takes more time and, I have to deal with more customers. But if I deal with 300 people, it takes less time. My market is probably they have a little bit of money, and therefore one would hope that maybe they don't complain as much. They don't, they expect a product to be a certain way, but also it's nicer in dealing with people who have a bit more money to spend, because they're not going to have as many complaints and they're not going to have as many issues, one would hope anyway. And that is, by the way, statistically, that is how it works. So once we understand that actually we should price ourselves high, that is important. And I'll give you guys another example. I've been in the recruitment industry now for 11 years. I've done telesales when I was 16 years old. I did door-to-door sales a little bit after that. And then more importantly, I got into recruitment, doing sales for companies, dealing with people when I was 21 years old. The good thing about recruitment, by the way, is not only are you selling to companies, you're also selling to people. Right? Your product has a brain. And so we have to sell to the companies, the clients, but then we also have to convince the people to take the job as well. Having said that, you get paid really well. I started my own recruitment company when I was 25 years old, and it's something that made me a lot of money. In fact, 6 months later, we were making £20,000 a month. By the way, if it is something you guys want to learn, we do teach how to start your own recruitment company. Link is always in the description. Leave your details and someone will be in touch. But this is all about sales. And so the reason I was talking about recruitment is in recruitment, we charge a percentage. So the way it works is we will charge a percentage of someone's salary, and that will be our finder's fee. That's what the company will pay us. So how it works is we will find a candidate, we will supply that candidate to the company. Let's say the candidate's salary is £45,000. Let's say it's £50,000 because we'll make the numbers easier. We will charge a minimum of 15%, right? And so that would be a £7,500 fee. We find the candidate, we get the candidate, we supply them to the company. Once that candidate gets the job, we will, on the day the person starts, charge a fee of £7,500. Now that obviously is a lot of money, obviously. But check this. If instead of 15%, we charge 13%, which is only a 2% difference, we will be losing out on £1,500, £1,500. And if that one company, by the way, because usually what happens if when you start working with a company, they give you a job every other month, every month, or so on and so forth. So if you didn't know how to negotiate and if you didn't know how to sell and you ended up getting a bad deal, you could lose out on £1,500 at least, because 2% is not a lot, right? So you could lose out on 2%, therefore meaning £1,500 every single month, which again would mean you would lose out on £18,000 over the year. So the one thing I really want to hound down on is you want to keep your price high, because understand something, as long as your product is good, your service is good, and you're giving value, people will pay more. And in fact, today, people will rather pay more and get a good product and a good service than even have something for free. Because have you ever heard the saying, when something is too good to be true, it probably is. And for the brothers or the sisters that sell cars, for example, you will know if you price your car way too low, no one's going to come. No one's going to even call you if it is priced too low, because they will think it's too good to be true. And the same applies to many products and services in life. When something is too cheap, too good to be true, it is better for you to price something higher because more people will be interested and it's realistic. When something is too good to be true, people just aren't interested and they'd rather give something a miss if it's just too cheap. Now, even when it comes to providing free value, like, for example, this for you guys is completely free. I'm teaching you exactly how to do sales, exactly how people's mind works, exactly how to deal with problems and give solutions and do well in your business. It's going to be hours of content and it is free. But the reality is there's not going to be that much buzz around this video, and I completely understand it. By the way, let me know in the comments below how much value you get, because it helps me and it makes me want to create more and more good, valuable content for you guys. But the truth is this, if I put a price on what I'm making for you right now on YouTube at £299, for example, and 100 people bought, that would be £30,000. Just 100 people buying this video would have made me £30,000, but I'm giving it to you guys for free. So if you still not like this video, and if you still haven't commented below, it's kind of sad, because we know the value has only started and we've got a long way to go. And make sure, again, if you benefit throughout, share with your family or friends, because that really helps me know that you guys are benefiting and getting the value I'm trying to give you guys. Now, step number one, if you ever want to become really, really good at sales, if you want to be a master at selling, you have to get your customers and you have to get the people that you are looking to sell to trust you. Because there is one simple, very, very simple rule when it comes to sales. People don't buy from the people they don't trust. So if you want to get someone to buy from you, you have to get them to trust you. And this is important, because when it comes to sales, and that could be you selling over the phone, that could you be selling face to face, that could be any sort of sales, and that could even be emails or making a video, marketing, in anything. When you are selling, the person who is watching you, listening to you, or reading an email, they have to trust you. Which is why in sales, by the way, we say that the person who is looking to buy from you has to touch base with you a couple of times, a few times before they actually look to buy. So it's very, very rare that you make a sale instantly on the first call. See, in the real world, in actual reality, if people don't trust you, they won't buy from you. It's just as simple as that. And so the quicker you can get people to trust you, and that doesn't mean in a negative way. That actually means by building rapport, getting your personality across and coming across in a way where people can be like, you know what, this guy seems genuine. This guy seems actually like he's trying to help us, and this product and service or whatever it is you're looking to sell is actually of value to the customer. Now, a sale like this may have worked. It may have worked 15, 20 years ago, but unfortunately for you and I, maybe unfortunately, people have understood that they don't want to be sold to. And once people understand they don't want to be sold to, you have to sell to people without them realizing they're being sold to. We're going to go into how you do that. And the first place you start with getting people to trust you is by speaking to them and coming across them over and over again. In fact, in sales, in cold calling, in building relationship over the phone, we say that a client is likely to buy from you on their 7th call. That is the most likely time someone is going to actually buy from you. But you know what the crazy thing is? Most people, in fact, 9 out of 10 people in sales, they will never speak to the person the 7th time. So let's give the example of cold calling. Let's give the example of calling someone on the phone. When you call someone on the phone, the first time, you're basically pitching to them exactly what you do and the value that you can provide to them. And you have to do that very, very quickly. And when I say very quickly, you have to do that in 7-8 seconds at most. Now, when you do that, they don't know you, they don't know your name, and they don't know what you do. So you have to get that message across. The likelihood is you're not going to win business with them straight away, and you don't want to. You know what? You don't want to win business with them straight away. You know why? Because if they give you business straight away, it means they'll give business to everyone else straight away. And remember what I said? If something is easily accessible, it's less desirable. And the same way, if this client is easily accessible, they are less desirable, not only for you, but they're easily accessible for other companies. And if they're easily accessible for other companies, it means it's going to be harder for you to make money with this company. They will entertain a phone call with anyone. And so today, if you win business with them, tomorrow you'll lose business with them. You want your business to be solidified and you want your business to last a long time. That is not going to happen by dealing with businesses that unfortunately deal with anyone and everyone and don't really care in how they deal with a business. So imagine this, the second time you call, they still don't remember you, but they still recall some stuff. They can remember a couple of things. And this is important. The first call that you make, the first time you touch base with a customer, it's important to understand what issues, what problems the company, the customer, or the person you're dealing with is having. That is crucial in sales. Unless you understand the problem, you cannot sell to them. Understanding the problem is not only good in the beginning, it's also very, very crucial in negotiating and very, very crucial in closing. And we're going to take it step by step. So trust me, bear with me. The first time you're touching base, the first time you speak to a client, the first time you see someone face to face, you sell to that person by actually not necessarily taking too much information on the business. Sometimes it could be something which is totally irrelevant to the business. Let me give you an example. Often what happens is if I call a company, the receptionist might pick up or someone else picks up and says, the person is away, they're on holiday and they're not in today, right? I will always ask and I will always say, not a problem, gone anywhere nice? I will always ask that question. I will always ask, in a very, very gentle and soft way, is there something, are they away, doing something nice? Everything all right? Whatever, depending on what they say, right? And the receptionist might just turn around and be like, oh yeah, he's just gone to Greece, or he's just gone here. Oh no, he's got a bereavement that he needs to attend to, or something like that, right? Which, guess what? The next time I call, I will address that bereavement. I will address that holiday. I will mention it. And I might say something like, hey, Mark, I know you were away last week. You were away at Greece. I spoke to the receptionist. She said, look, give a call this week. And then I'll go into the conversation. That all of a sudden, it's done something. It's made me stand out from every single other person. I know something no one else does. And that is crucial. And there are many ways you do that. You do that by one. If someone picks up the phone and they take their name, let's say Rebecca picks up the phone and Rebecca says, hey, Rebecca, ABC Limited speaking. Your response should be, hey, Rebecca. You always address their name. You see, when you take their name, it makes it all that personable. So let's say, for example, there is a Hussein listening and watching this right now. For anyone that has Hussein in your surname or your first name, or let's say there's a Ahmed, let's say there's a Bilal, let's say there's a Hamza, right? Let's say there's a Haris, let's say there is a Muhammad. Now, for any names that I've taken right now, you guys would have all of a sudden, your ears would have stood up and you would have been like, oh, he took my name, right? That is the point. You don't realize it, but subconsciously taking someone's name makes it very, very personable. And that is exactly what you're trying to do. So when you're dealing with someone, you always refer to them by their name, right? And you always bring out the fact that you are mentioning the name, even if that's face to face, that's in a client meeting, you're going to sell a product, in a shop maybe, even if that's like, for example, if I was in a shop and I was selling, trainers, right? And a customer came in, I would say something like, let's say I really wanted to sell these trainers to this customer. I would say something like, oh, sorry, you said your name was, I would say that. Sorry, you said your name was, they take their name. Okay, now let's say they said, oh, my name, oh, it's Mark, right? You're like, Mark, listen, lovely to meet you, by the way. So this is what we're doing. What is it you're looking, bearing in mind, and we're going to go into this later. It's very important to understand how you go about the sale, but I wouldn't start selling the trainers. I would say, so Mark, what's the main reason you're looking for some trainers at the moment? I would understand why Mark is looking for the trainers, and I would understand the problem Mark is having and the value that I can provide him. That is the crucial thing here. But we're going to go into that because it's a very deep topic and it's very important to get into it. So now understand this. Let's say I speak to Mr. Client, customer, or anyone else the third time or the fourth time. They will remember me by name. They're going to say, Abu Musa, yeah, we spoke last month, right? Or I will say something like, Mark, Abu Musa, we spoke last month. It's just, regarding whatever it's regarding. Now they remember your name, now they remember your company, and they are more likely to buy from you. And what actually is the magical thing? What is the magical thing is this, that it's all well and good that you keep trying to get in touch with this person, you keep calling this person, and by the way, it's never just about calling. It's not just about that is the method. This is also applies when it comes to marketing, running ads, getting people to buy when it comes to videos, right? All this is very important. So you have to understand, it's just that the person isn't ready to buy from you because they don't trust you. Now, what is the magical thing is this. When something keeps appearing in front of you, when someone keeps speaking to you, when the need actually then arises, who do you think you're going to get in touch with? You're going to get in touch with the person that has been gently reminding you that they are here. They're there if you ever need them. And so, if you keep seeing an advert when it comes to a hoodie, if it comes to a t-shirt, if it comes to anything, what you're going to do is see those ads. Subconsciously, you're seeing those ads, and 3 months, 4 months, or 5 months later, you're going to say, you know what, there was that. It's subconsciously, it's in your head now, right? So when you're actually looking to buy, you're going to go to that place and buy that product or that service. And that is the important thing. And that's why running ads, even, it's not always about buying straight away. It's not about converting immediately. It can actually be about getting people to buy in 5, 6 months or 7 months down the line. And so, for example, I learned this actually, I speak to some ad specialists all the time. In fact, we have a platform called Teach You, by the way. Teach You is a platform where we have, I've actually got my own 5-hour sales course on there. So if you're finding value in this, there's actually probably going to be an even detailed one on Teach You. On there, you've got marketing, you've got AI, you've got running Google ads, you've got running Facebook ads, you've got so many genuinely valuable courses on there. You've got people who have started SaaS companies and how they've sold SaaS companies and how you can do the same, how you can optimize your business. For the Teach You platform, by the way, to let you guys know, it is just £1.99 for the first month. You can get access to all the courses, every single one. If you don't know anything about taxes, that course is also on there as well. Tons and tons of information. It's £1.99 for the first month, and it's £23.99 after that. So there's tons and tons of value. The whole reason I started the Teach You platform is just to educate people at a very, very, very affordable price. It's not like I'm making tons and tons of money, I promise you guys. It is just a case of over providing, giving so much value where you guys are like, you know what, there is so much value, it makes sense. And that is exactly what I'm doing. The truth is I should be charging a lot more, but I am not. And so it'd be amazing if you guys, again, could make use of it, share it with your family or friends if that's not what you want to do and take benefit of it. But there is tons of value there. So hopefully you benefit. But the point is this, you need to appear in front of the customers. You need to speak to your clients, and you need to be in the face of people at least 5-6 times so they can then have trust to buy your product or service. And there are many things that will help you do that. Things like understanding the customer's problem, addressing the problem, and then providing the value. And often people buy from the people that are very similar to them. And this is interesting, actually. I'll mention this in a very soft and brief way. There are people out there, actually, to be fair, and I won't take names, but there are people out there who are actually very, very wealthy, very rich, probably could fly private jets all the time, and they won't do that. And they will actually come across as if they don't have that much money, and they will come across humble. And to be fair, maybe they are humble, and I'm not judging anyone, actually. In fact, I'm not taking any names, so I'm not really judging anyone. But what they do is they come across as if they are relatable, because people buy from the people that are relatable to them. And this is something I do with my sales calls, actually, many a times. When I'm making calls, I'll make a call, and then it will be something like, if I'm speaking to Karen, who is 40 years old, it will be something like, "Hey Karen, it's Musab. I'm calling from Frank Corey. I just wanted to see if you could help with something at the moment," for example, right? Anyway, you get the point, right? If I'm speaking to a 60-year-old engineering manager who is in charge of, the whole company, for example, when it comes to production, maybe Mark picks up the phone and he's like, "Yeah, hello, Mark speaking," for example. I will respond to Mark the way he wants me to respond to Mark. So I will respond like, "Hey Mark, don't want to keep you too long, fella. Just, I've got this candidate. He's looking for work. I want to see if this is something you might be interested in, whatever sort of." So I'll give him the pitch, whatever the pitch is. Now, we'll go into that stuff as well, right, later on. But the point here is I mimic the person and their energy. That is crucial, by the way. That is so, so, so important, and I can't explain it to you. If you now are a Pakistani brother, for example. You're a Pakistani brother or sister, and you hear someone who gives you a call. They sound like they might be Asian, and they say, yeah, my name's Afzal, for example. Now, obviously, I have to be honest. Maybe for the Pakistanis, it probably doesn't apply as much because unfortunately, we have maybe done some wrong in society sometimes. And so I don't think we have a lot of trust when it comes to Pakistani, unfortunately, I say that some bad eggs have made a lot of us look not great. So maybe that's not the perfect example. But for example, if you are Somalian and you come with a Somalian name and you sound like you're a little bit Somalian, then you're more likely to have a conversation with that person. I think it still applies to the Pakistani brothers and sisters as well. I have to be honest, a lot of us think that we wouldn't want to buy a car if the guy's Pakistani, because unfortunately, some bad eggs have created a bad name for some people with a Pakistani culture or Pakistani background. So it's probably not the best example. But the point is if you come from a place which is relatable, it adds a lot of value. And so you want to sound like, you want to mimic their energy. You want them to feel like, if I wanted to have a little outing with this person, if I wanted to go have some fun with this person, then I would get along with this person. They could be my friend. That's how you want to come across, and that is actually very crucial. The other thing is, sometimes it's very, very important to mention things that you have in common. And so I mentioned previously how when you get to know the person's name, it is very, very important to mention the person's name and address them by their name. That helps a lot when you're trying to build relationships with a customer or a client, but also more importantly, I would say, their location. So for example, if you guys, anyone watching here is from Birmingham, Solihull, is that even how you say it? Sorry, apologies if it's not. Or if you are from Whitechapel, or if you are from Oldham, or if you are from Bradford, or if you are from Slough, or if you are from Hounslow. Now, I've taken some towns, and for those, and I need you guys to let me know in the comments, right? Every time I've taken your name or every time I've taken your town, how has that made you feel? Has that made you feel like, oh, he just took my town's name, right? Or Luton, right? If I have taken your town's name, how did it make you feel? If it made you feel like, oh, he just took my town's name, right? That is exactly the feeling that you are recreating when you are speaking to someone and you're selling to them. You're building that rapport, you're building that relationship. And when you take someone's name, their location, or even more specifically, if you say something like, for example, hey, I'm just giving you guys a call, or I'm just having a conversation with you, or you are now speaking to this person, and you say something like this. I know you guys are based in the Heathrow side, you're on Bath Road, right? And then you go into it, whatever you're pitching or whatever you're selling. The point is this: you've mentioned something that is very, very close to them, and you know exactly who they are, where they are, and you know something about them. This call is now very, very personable, and it's very important how you come across. You don't want to come across like a stalker, obviously, right? And so the point being is this: when you take someone's name, you take some location's name or something like that, it adds a lot of value. And this can be applied to many, many examples. Now, when you're selling a product, a service, which is why a lot of Muslims, for example, will generally feel like they are more comfortable selling to Muslims because they automatically have trust and rapport, which, by the way, I feel like is misused sometimes. I definitely feel like it's misused. And I think a lot of the times we should just provide value for free. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be very helpful. But the reality is still that a lot of Muslims will sell to Muslims because they feel comfortable selling to Muslims, and because they feel like there's rapport and relationship also there. And sometimes that's when the intention comes into it. And I'm not judging anyone's intention, but when then you start giving reminders and then you sell some, it just gets a bit muggy. So bearing in mind, I'm not talking about anyone. FYI, before I get comments going crazy, I'm just saying how you're more likely to buy from the people that have the same background. Though there is an element of, I think, Muslims could probably support their own community a little bit more than they already do. That's probably a topic for another day. Now, just to give you guys an idea of how much value is still to come, we're going to go through different techniques. We're going to go through some theoretical stuff in terms of how you should be planning your sale, how you provide value, how you understand value, questions to ask. We're going to go through the sell me a pen and how people actually don't do this correctly, the right way to do it. We're going to go through how people make mistakes. Social media sales experts sometimes make mistakes in their sales journey, and we're going to go over some of the biggest objections and how to handle them, again, so you can have the best sales experience when it comes to customers, companies, and so you could be a sales beast. And so trust me, if you're benefiting still, there is a ton of benefit still to come. Now, I want to mention one of the most important parts of any sales process, and this applies to every sale possible, every single way that you are going to sell. If your sales guru, if the person that you are listening to makes this mistake, I would say that it is very obvious they are not that good at sales. And I say this because I've been in the sales industry for 15 years, and actually I usually come across extremely humble, but there is something that I am very, very good at. And I have to be very, very respectful. And you will realize this the more I speak about this side, and that is sales. I understand how to sell to people, and I understand how to get people to buy without hard selling, but more importantly, understanding the problem that they might be having. The most important part is asking open-ended questions when it comes to your sales process. Let me explain, because it's not just as simple as asking open-ended questions. Implementing these are crucial. Implementing open-ended questions, that is the difference between you actually having a good sale and you, in essence, ending the phone very, very quickly. See, when you're speaking to a company, when you're speaking to someone, a customer, a company, or whoever it is, and you ask a question and the answer to that is a yes or a no, the truth is that's a very easy way for a company or a customer to end the call or end the sale and just say no, whatever the question might well be. So let's just say I'm speaking to a company and I'm in front of them and I'm in front of the decision maker. And I say, is this something you need? I've heard people who are sales experts, right? Sales experts ask this question, is this something you need? That is a very bad question to ask. And I'll tell you why. Because even if they need it, the actual reality is they will turn around to you and say no because they don't want to buy, because they feel like they're being sold to. And I want you guys to listen now, and I'm going to give you guys a live example, and I want you to be honest now and let me know in the comments how, and I really want this to be an interactive session. The only way you guys will really learn is by this being interactive. So feel free to ask me questions below, right? If you guys are currently looking for a car, whatever that car is, okay? It could be a BMW or Mercedes or whatever that car is. Forget about the make, right? Now, I want you to use this example with yourselves. If I now pick up the phone or see you face to face, however it might well be, and I say to you, I have a car, is this something you need? You're less likely to say yes. Let's say you're driving already. Let's say you're driving a Golf, and let's think about a car that most people really want, okay? I mean, 5-10 years ago, I probably would have said a 5 Series. Sorry, not a 5 Series, an M5, maybe. But let's say a G-Wagon. Okay, well, let's go. We're going to go with a G-Wagon. No, but you know what? A G-Wagon is very expensive, so obviously it's an amazing product to have, and so that probably sells itself. So forget a G-Wagon. Let's just say an M3, okay? You guys might hate M3s. Just whatever car you like, use this example for the car that you like, okay? Let's say you're driving a Golf. You're driving a Golf. Now, you don't know what car I am going to sell to you. I see you and I say, and you're in your head, you're really looking forward and you really want to have a M3 or an M5, for example. You're driving a Golf and I come to you and I say, I've got a car. I've not told you what car, by the way. Is this something that you might need? Or do you need this? Your response automatically is going to be no, I'm not really interested. You're going to be a little bit backwards, okay? Having said that, if I turn around to you and I say, look, man, I've got this M5, top shape, it's got full service history, one owner, etc., etc. By the way, is this something that you might be in the market for? You might at least be interested because I've spoken about the product, right? Having said that, this is what differentiates the middle salespeople and myself. Yeah, I'm going to say it. And myself. No, I'm joking, honestly. So, okay, but I am very good at sales. I have to be honest. I am, okay? Put me in front of, if you guys are watching right now and you're like, you've got a company deal that you need to close, etc., etc. I can go in front of companies, and I've gone in front of companies and closed very, very easily. I do it in my sleep, and I say this in the most respectful way. But what would make this a lot better for you guys is, instead of saying, this is what I have, it's got this, etc., etc., you would say this. You would say, what exactly is it you're in the market for? What exactly is it you're looking for? So the person speaks, they tell you exactly what they're looking for. Oh, right, okay. What issues are you having currently with your current car? They mention the issues that they're currently having with their current car. And maybe you can say something like, what are the 3 most important things to you in whatever car they mention? Let's say they say it's an M5. That's what I want, the color, etc., etc. Say to them, you then would say something like, well, what are the 3 most important things to you for, to get that car, to get the M5? They will tell you the 3 things. And then you may ask, how would you feel if, you drove the Golf for the next 5, 6, 7 years, right? Is that okay? Is that something that you would be all right to do? You would emphasize, they've already told you what they want. They've already told you what they would like. And then you emphasize how, if they don't get what they want, how that might make them feel, or how that might be an issue for them. Now, what are you doing here? You're understanding the customer's needs. You're understanding exactly what they need. You're reminding them of what they want, and then you're giving them the solution, right? At that point, once you've understood what exactly they want, how that would make them feel, you're then giving them the solution. Oh, you know what? To be fair, I have got this car, whatever sort of thing that matches their, criteria, whatever sort of thing. So the point is this: a lot of people, they don't even realize they need something until you speak to them about it. And that's for you to do. That is sales. Sales is more understanding, you're creating content right now. How are you going about that? How are you finding your audio sounding at the moment? And they might say, it could be better. Oh, do you think that affects your views? Do you think that affects like how you're doing things? And they say, yeah, probably. I mean, is it fair to say, if you had something better, do you think, it would be better for your consumer? You say something like that, and then you're reminding them of what, and then you're like, well, to be fair, I do have this mic, right? So you're understanding the problem. And I do this all the time. This is very crucial. You find out the problem, you find out the person's situation, and you find out by asking open-ended questions. If you ever feel like in sales, you are speaking more than the client, your sale is wrong. It's completely wrong. So often you will find, some people do this, they will speak and speak and speak and speak, and they're like, this is why you buy, this is why you buy, this is why you buy, they're crazy, machine gun, all right? But actually, to be fair, that's not beneficial. It's not actually helping you guys, because the client's not really getting to tell you their problem, right? I've actually done this many times, and I did this in a client meeting. I recorded it on my YouTube channel. I've actually done many times cold calling videos on my YouTube channel. It's something I'm, again, quite good at. I find myself quite proficient at it. Anyway, I saw a client, I met a client face to face, and I recorded that video as well. And in that video, I basically said to that client, I kept asking them the question: if there's anything we can improve, what do you think it would be? If there's anything that you think you struggle with, what would that be? Where are the pain points right now? I'm asking you, by the way, so we can help deliver the best service for you. Right? I'm asking questions like that. And the reason I'm asking questions like that is because I'm really trying to understand, what is your problem? Everyone has a problem. All right? Everyone has a problem. And when you're looking to sell to them, it is on you to find that solution. But the only way you're ever going to be able to do that is by asking open-ended questions. Now, instead of asking those open-ended questions, you would say, is this something you need? Do you need this? When do you want this? To be fair, when would still somewhat be a little bit open. But if your question, the answer to your question is a yes or a no answer, it's a bad question. And I'm going to, at this point, put up some questions which are open-ended questions, which hopefully you can just, write down, note down, and take some information off. And hopefully this will help you get an idea on what sort of questions you should ask and how to keep those open-ended questions. Now, what I'm going to do for the guys that have watched until this point is I'm going to make a document with the open-ended questions and the questions you should be asking, and good questions. And then I'm going to give you examples of questions you shouldn't ask. I'm going to make a document of that. Now, for those of you that have continued to benefit until this point, it is only going to get meatier and beefier, and there will be more and more value for you guys. So trust me when I say take every single part in, because you don't know when a part might come that will benefit you in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or continuously benefit you month on month. Now, the next step after going through the open-ended questions and for you guys to understand exactly how and what the open-ended questions should look like, it's very, very crucial for you guys to understand, though you're asking open-ended questions, you never, ever, ever want to make it out as if you need the client or that you need the customer, and without them, your business doesn't run, because actually that's where you will mess up in sales. Remember, you're providing value, you are giving a product which is of need to that person, and you are giving a service which is of need to that person. As long as you are coming across as if it's a fair deal, then it will always help your sales. It will always mean that you are trying to keep your profits high, you are keeping your margins high, and so on and so forth. This is a mistake, by the way, a lot of people make, and that is that they will make it out as if they need the company. Often in sales, you will have to ask tough questions. If you're having to ask tough questions, you're asking those questions because it's going to benefit the customer or the client. And so, for example, if you are having to ask a client in recruitment what sort of salary they are willing to pay the candidate, and the client doesn't really want to answer that, you are well within your right to say, look, Mr. Client, I want to make sure I get the right candidate for you. I want to make sure that I get the right person to do the job for you. But for me to do that, I need some information on exactly what you need. I can't do that if you don't give me the information. So what exactly are you looking to pay the candidate? You are well within your right to ask that question because you're trying to do a good job for them. And the same applies to when it comes to marketing, a social media marketing company. The same applies if you're looking to sell a service or a business, something into a business. You're trying to understand what is going wrong and how can we provide you the most value possible. You want to reiterate that. But remember, it's a fair deal, and it's not about you are now. You never want to come across as if you need them. You're on the lower hand and they're on the upper hand. That is not how sales works, not if you're trying to get a good deal. And to be fair, it's not just about the fact that it's you won't get a good deal, but people respect those that know exactly what they're talking about and are trying to provide value. If a company or if a customer feels like they can easily, get one over you, unfortunately, they probably won't respect you, and they probably will find it very difficult to do a business deal with you. Now, once you understand the importance of asking open-ended questions, let's go into how you can implement that. And let's understand, how do you actually get the problems from the client, the customer, and so on? Because actually, the key part to sales, the absolute most important part of any sales is understanding the problem a company, a client, a customer, the person is having. What is the problem? There's always a problem. So you need to solve the problem for them, and there are always objections for the person. Right? The client and the customer, they will always have objections, and you need to understand what exactly those objections might be. Now, they will vary, and we will go through specifically how to deal with each objection shortly. But objections like it's too high, the price is too much, we already use someone, this isn't something we need, etc., etc. Now, again, we'll go through the objections, particularly one by one. Obviously, have you liked the video yet? Because if you haven't, we're going through a lot of value. Just like the video. But more importantly, how do you go about actually putting that question in place and getting the problems from them? So look, the key here is most of the time, the company or the customer, they don't even realize they have a problem. That is the key part here. In the whole video today, in the hours of content that you are watching, this may be one of the most important parts that you can take from this YouTube video. And that is, when you are dealing with the client or the customer and the person you're dealing with, it is not necessary that the first problem is always the only problem, or it is the biggest problem. And so that is actually very, very important. So when I'm asking a company, when I'm asking a client, or when I'm asking a customer, what sort of problems are they having at the moment, I will say something like, what are the things that can be improved right now? What are the 3 most important things to you that need to be fixed? Or what are the 3 more important things that we need to focus on What is it that you don't like about the other products or services in the industry? So whether that's you're supplying a t-shirt, whether that's a car, whether that's a recruitment service or a marketing service, whatever that might well be, you want to find out what is it that you don't like with other companies, right? That's a very, very, very good question, because usually the reason they're speaking to you is because they're not completely happy with the provider that they already have. That's a fact, by the way. So what are they not doing as well as what is it that they're not doing as well as they should be doing? That's a question you need to ask. And so you need to get that information out of the company. Now, let's say the company says something like, time's a problem. They're not getting whatever the product or the service to us as quickly enough. Maybe it's a price thing. Maybe it's the quality. Whatever it is, ask that question, right? And you need to ask more and more questions, open-ended questions around that problem. So you would say something like, the current company providing what they're providing, what are the things that they can improve? The company will talk. Okay, what else do you think is a pain point for you? And what is it that they also could do maybe better? Ask more, ask a little bit more, because trust me, the first thing is not always the only thing. So maybe they say something, maybe they say, no, to be fair, that is all. Then you can say something like, how does that affect you? How does that affect your business? Again, you can use the same way for a customer. And they will obviously, tell you how this affects you. And by the way, if at any point you feel like the client is getting a little bit, I don't like answering these questions, then you want to say something like, by the way, the only reason I ask is I want to make sure that mistakes other people make is something that we are not making. And the only reason I can do that is by understanding the pain point from your side and understanding exactly what we can do well. So don't mind me asking these questions, but it only helps me delivering a good service for you. Woo! Now, my guys, the way I just said it like that, you need to rewind, you need to write it down word by word, and need to memorize it, because that line there is powerful. I promise you guys. And so you have to let the client know, the customer know that in essence, you're asking these questions so you can deliver the best service possible. Now, remember something, whatever pains they're mentioning, whatever faults and problems they're mentioning, you have to remember them, because it's going to come in handy when you're negotiating, it's going to come in handy when you are trying to pitch your services, and it's going to come in handy when you're closing. So remember, understanding the pain points for the company, understanding what could be done better is absolutely crucial for you to make sure that you sell and you close the company from each side. So let's say now the company has got to a point where they've told you the problems, they've told you how that is affecting them. Then you would reiterate the problem. So what I like to say is I ask about, what problems they're having. I reiterate that problem. And then I ask them, well, how is that affecting you? Because let's be honest, let's say I've got a business, right? And in terms of, marketing, let's say marketing, right? I've got a business and I'm not using anyone for marketing in my business. Let's say you call and you speak to me, whether it's a face-to-face, Zoom, call, whatever it is, and you say, what are the problems you're having at the moment? How is this affecting you? And, I know other people are obviously using social media at the moment. Other people are going through marketing strategies. Well, how is that affecting you, or what issues are you having? They will talk about those issues. What happens if you don't take out any marketing? Because other people are. So is it not fair to say that they are getting the customers that maybe once were walking through your doors, or maybe once were using your services? So how does that affect you as a business? Again, you know what you're doing? You're talking about the problem, and then you're reiterating how that's affecting the person. And then you're going to do the close, which we'll mention. But let me add some substance to this. The reason you're doing that is because a lot of people think about the problem, but don't like to put it at the front of their head. In essence, it's at the back of their head and they don't like to really think about it too much. You, my friends, you guys need to mention it to them, remind them how it's affecting their business. And that is why you need to give them a solution. But more importantly, you need to go deeper into this. So I'm going to give you an example now. This same example in marketing, I would say something like, it's fair to say that other companies are using marketing strategies at the moment and therefore are on social media platforms. Let's say we're speaking to a restaurant, okay? So they're obviously getting the customers, then they're getting in front of the people that were once walking through your doors. How is that affecting your business? They'll explain. I will ask something like, and in regards to your business, how much of your business is online, as in through the delivery apps, and how much is walking through the door? They'll say whatever they'll say, and then I'll understand a little bit about the business. And then I'll ask them the question. I'll say, well, what happens if, other companies continue to use marketing ways to get more customers in and you don't? And obviously the people that are once walking through your doors now go through other people. I mean, how does that affect you as a business, right? He might say, well, it affects us. Okay, but look, for me to really be able to benefit your business, I'm trying to understand how that would affect you in terms of, the revenue side. So how much of your money is coming through online? How much is coming through the doors? Okay, so it's fair to say, whatever that number is, let's say it's £10,000, right, altogether. So you're now, you're making £10,000 a month. Other businesses are obviously using marketing strategies and so on and so forth. Well, actually, if we could increase your sales by 20%, because actually we're marketing to you as a business and we're getting your business in front of other platforms and so on and so forth. It's fair to say that if we can increase your revenue by 20% after 6 months even per se, that would mean you're actually making an extra £2,500 a month. Is that something that sounds, you're now talking about numbers. Remember, when you talk about numbers, it becomes a bit realistic, right? So then you talk about numbers. And then if you're actually bringing £2,500 worth of business to the company, then actually you can easily charge them £1,500 a month, for example, or £2,000 a month. Does that make sense? And so that's, I guess, what it comes down to. And so you have to remember what I did there. I asked the open-ended questions. I asked about the business. I understood everything. How much money are they making currently? How much money are they making online? By the way, I don't have a marketing company, so this isn't my speciality, but I know sales very well. So I could sell anything to anyone, to be fair, because I understand how to work people, how to make sales, and how to convince people that actually your product or your service is good by understanding what the person's problem is. The key is this: you have to understand what problems the person is having and reiterate it. Now, what I've explained to you, by the way, is a strategy called SPIN. Now that's SPIN, and I will put it on the video for you guys to look at this right now. Take a screenshot, read it, do whatever you got to do, and make sure you understand this. In essence, what you're doing is you're setting the situation. You talk about the problem, and I will go a little bit away from this theory of SPIN particularly, right? But basically, you set the situation. So a situation question might be something like, the company you're using at the moment. What does that process look like? The companies, your competitors or something like that, what are they doing currently? Or that would be a situational question. Problem questions would obviously be, in essence, asking what sort of problems they're having at the moment, what issues are you having right now? That's obviously a problem question. Then you want to sort of have the implication. The implication is basically, how is that affecting you as a business, right? But what you really want to do is, the S, actually, you should probably do maybe one question at most, maximum two. The real beef of this is actually in the P, which is the problem. And you want to ask about 3, 4, maybe even 5 questions around the problem. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? The client never really mentions the problem the first time. So it's important. Ask about the problem all the time. And then you ask an implication question. How does that affect you? That's a very easy implication question. And I think you only need to really ask one of those. And then you would do the need, which is, in essence, you're selling your product in, and you sell your product and service of, well, we do this. I know you're having problems here. We will address that like this. We will do this here. That's basically the end is basically the close. However, I'm going to go deeply into how you want to go about closing the business. And so this, in essence, what I've just explained previously, what I was talking about was a SPIN strategy, which was what I've just gone through the steps of. Now I want to move over to how to sell a pen. That's something that a lot of people talk about, and an example that is used. A lot of the salespeople online, social media, they speak about it and how to sell a pen. And so I'm going to tell you the right answer of how to sell a pen. It does come up in interviews for jobs sometimes. So if you know this, then hopefully it helps you. But more importantly, I actually want to show some examples of other people in sales that have actually done sell me a pen, the way to sell me a pen, and the answer that they've given, and actually how they have probably not done it the best way, and actually how I would have answered it. And now, by the way, this isn't to say that these people don't know sales at all, because I think they do. That's the truth of it. But I think that it's just a fun way to show you guys a better way to do it. So it's not me discrediting or saying that these guys don't know sales. It's more me saying there's probably a better way to answer this. And obviously you guys can be the judge of that. And it's very easy for me to sit here and judge other people and give an answer. But obviously when you're in the middle of it, maybe you get caught off guard sort of thing. It's actually important to mention here, look, what people do is they make it about the pen. It's never about the pen, by the way. That's never actually how you sell something. It's never about your product or your service. And I'll get to the answer. But what is interesting here, and it's probably a good point that in essence what you're doing is supply and demand. If your product is so much in need, then it probably sells itself, right? And that, yes, it would work. If you've got a product where, maybe back in, when COVID was obviously going through the roof, and if you had sanitizers there, or if you had, the face mask at that point, then really and truly supply and demand, your product's going to sell regardless, right? Though that luxury probably isn't, it's not for all of us. Unfortunately, we don't all have that luxury, and so we do need to sell to someone where we're competing in a market where others do sell a product or a service. And so let's now look at Simon Squibb, actually. Simon Squibb mentioned something, and he talks about how to sell a pen. So we'll then talk about how actually you should go about something like this.
Most people, when I give you this pen, will start selling it. The first question you need to ask is not, would you like to buy this pen? And this is a lovely pen. Do you like blue? Look at it. It's nice and strong and it's a good brand. It will last for. Forget all that shit. First thing you need to say is, do you need a pen? Do you need a pen? Now, if people say no, then you ask them when in the future they might need a pen. You break down when the desire and the need for this product might occur.
Right, so what Simon says there is basically you're not going to talk about the pen, and he's 100% right here, by the way. You don't sell the pen itself. You don't talk about how beautiful it is, how good it is, etc., etc., etc. But the mistake Simon does make here is he says you're going to ask the question whether they need the pen, right? That is not the right way to go about it, because actually half of the people you're selling something to will just say no, even if they need something, because they don't want to be sold to. So they would just say no. And more importantly, a mistake here is asking a closed-ended question by saying, do you need this pen? You're now giving an option to the company, to the client, to the customer, to anyone you're selling that pen to. You're giving them the option to say no. And so if now I say no, I'm already negative, I'm already on the back foot, at which point you might say, when will you need it in the future, which is what Simon tells you to say. Again, you're already on the back foot. So a lot of the times a client, a customer, or the person listening will probably just turn around and say, no, it's not what I need, because it's an easier option. Now, let me tell you how you should have started a conversation about selling a pen. And bearing in mind here, we're just using the pen as an example, you would say something like, what sort of pen are you looking for? Again, implying that the person is looking for a pen. And it's an open-ended question. Or you would say something like, how long have you been in the market for a pen? Again, an open-ended question implying that the person is looking for something. And to be fair, before that, you may even want to go and ask really open-ended questions, something like, how often do you carry a pen? Because you'll be surprised. Again, not many people carry pens. And again, it's an open-ended question, right? So the person will speak a little bit more than just a yes or a no. So you would say something like, well, how often do you carry a pen? And so they might say rarely. Or they might say, well, I carry a pen all the time. She's like, oh, so you carry a pen all the time. So is it fair to say that you understand the importance of having a pen? Because sometimes, you might be in a situation where you need one, you don't have one. And again, now you're setting yourself a way in, right? This is, by the way, just selling a pen. The importance, I guess, is not necessarily the pen. It's teaching you something. And it's teaching you that no matter what it is, you don't start with asking a yes or a no question. Because as soon as you ask a yes or a no question, the answer very easily, very quickly can just be no. No, I don't need it. No, I don't want it. It's actually easy. No one likes to be sold to. So you have to ask open-ended questions and ask questions which makes the person feel like, you know what, this person's actually solving a problem for me. And this is again I rewind and I'm taking this step by step, and hopefully it's adding meat to the bone and you're understanding and learning a ton. And that is, when you ask open-ended questions and you're not asking closed-ended questions, you find out the problems they might have. You set up problems for them. And someone who actually does this quite well, actually, I've mentioned a couple of people who didn't do this that well. Now I'll mention someone who mentions this the right way, actually. And it's Jordan Belfort. He talks about this and he actually mentions this quite well. And so I'll play that little clip for you now.
Sell me the pen.
Okay, here's what I'm going to meet you. I'm going to meet you halfway with this, and I'll give a little sales training here about the trap of selling a pen. So when you tell someone to sell a pen like this, there's no context to sell you a pen because I don't know anything about you. I don't know what type of pens you use and whatnot. So when you do this to a salesperson, they'll say some really wacky stuff. So the best thing to say is I would say to Pierce, how long have you been in the market for a pen?
I've wanted a pen for 3 months.
So you've been looking for a pen for 3 months now?
Yes.
Really? And what type of pens do you typically use when you use a pen?
I like a nice, easy-to-use ballpoint pen or something.
Okay, so now just so you know what I'm doing, so I want to teach a little bit here, is that the idea is that when you sell someone something is you need to be asking questions first to qualify, to find out what someone's needs are.
Now, I'm sure you guys can understand, we've just talked about sell me a pen, and we've spoken about a couple of people in the industry that, talk about sales, and it's to actually show how deep sales actually is. It's never simple. And in fact, I could probably talk about sales for 10 hours and 15 hours, and that probably still wouldn't be enough. And it's really about how to ask those questions, how to really understand the person's problems, their pain points, and then reiterating where you can provide value. This is useful in every single place of sales. And it's important for you guys to understand that it's never just I'm confident and I'm a salesperson. Unless you really know how to ask questions, unless you know how to implement them, unless you know how not to ask questions, you will not be a good salesperson. Don't lie to yourself. It's a mistake I made when I got my first job into recruitment. I had done telesales and, sold different things when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And I thought I would be amazing. As soon as I get into sales at 21, very quickly did I realize actually, there are things that I'm very good at. There are things and situations I understand how to deal with, but are things that I need to unlearn and now relearn. And so it's always a case of providing value, understanding the problem, asking open-ended questions, and making sure you're able to put in those questions in a way where you never let the client feel like they're being sold to. That is a big mistake and you have to avoid it always. Now, I want to stay on this path of sales calls, cold calling, because the stuff that I've just mentioned previously, not only is it very useful speaking to people face to face, not only is it useful on emails and marketing and even making videos, it's also very important, obviously, when you're picking up the phone, doing calls, sales calls. A lot of the times for a lot of businesses, you will have to actually speak to them at some point. It's not a case of cold calling. Even if you're emailing them, at some point you will need to get on the phone and speak to them. And so all of this is very useful from every single avenue of sales. And you'll be very surprised how much sales you have to do in any sort of business. I would say it's the most important skill to learn for any business to be successful. And we will also talk about the branding side and the marketing side and how to actually put yourself in a position where you automatically make sales as well. That is also going to come shortly. But I want to briefly mention now how you would deal with a gatekeeper, how you would deal with people when they take the phone, how you would deal with people when, in essence, you're speaking to them on the phone. And to reiterate, I know this won't be relevant for everyone, but then again, there are gems in exactly what I'm going to say. And you don't know when you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're on the phone. So watch it, learn it, and make sure you're taking gems every single part of what I'm saying. To reiterate though, I would like to say that I actually have a 5-hour sales course. It's 5 hours, by the way. It's on the platform Teach You, and again, you get to learn everything else like marketing, AI, UI, Python, starting a SaaS company, building a business in SaaS, selling a company, marketing, and so much more. And it's only £1.99 for the first month. My thing has always been to provide value, so much value where you guys can be like, you know what, this is immense value. And we feel bad how cheap this is. And that's exactly the sort of feeling I want to create for you guys. So look, the link will be in the description for, if you guys are interested in something like that. So if you guys are struggling getting past a gatekeeper and you're thinking, well, look, I really want to get past a gatekeeper, but I'm not exactly sure how to. The more important thing here is understanding what value are you bringing to the company. If you can understand what value you're bringing to the company, then you should be much more confident than you are initially picking up the phone. And the other thing is this, there are several things that are very important when making calls to a company. One, you are really providing value. And so you should be confident when you're picking up the phone. If you're picking up the phone and you feel or sound a little bit desperate, it's multiplied by 10 when you're speaking on the phone because Emotions, again, someone can't see your face. You're not in front of them. And so emotions and your voice, it's amplified massively when you're speaking on the phone. So that desperation will come out. Remember, you cannot sound desperate. You cannot sound as if they are doing you a favor. Rather, you need to sound like you're bringing a lot of value to them. You need to sound confident, and you need to feel like this. You need to feel like if this company doesn't use your service, they're really going to miss out. If you feel like that, and if you genuinely believe that, that will come out on the phone, and that will come out on the answers that you give to the questions the gatekeeper has or the decision maker. Now, let's say you pick up the phone, you make a call, and the gatekeeper picks up, and the gatekeeper says something like the person's not available, or the person's not here, what's it regarding, etc., etc. Now, number one, the more important thing is, and by the way, I spoke about the gatekeeper alone in the course for 1 hour because it's such a big part of sales and cold calling in my sales course on Teach You, just FYI, but I'm having to summarize this because it's a YouTube video, and I know not many people have too much attention when it comes to the sales side. By the way, I want to make a whole course on negotiating, a complete course on negotiating for hours and hours of content again, because you will end up negotiating when it comes to customers, clients, and you will also negotiate when it comes to your jobs and so much and so on and so forth. And so just negotiating in itself is a huge topic, and I really want to go into detail about it. Again, if you want me to talk about that, please let me know in the comments. It just lets me know that these are things that you do want me to speak about. And it means that if you guys are watching a course for 2 hours, it probably took me 4 hours to sit here recording this course. So the least I guess I ask of you guys is, one, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let me know in the comments if you do want me to speak in detail about negotiating as well. So some people, when they're doing sales, they will say that you should be abrupt to a gatekeeper, and that you should say something like, "Hello, Abu Musa speaking. Can I speak to Mark? Thank you," for example. Or something like, "Yeah, hello, Abu Musa. Mark, please. Thanks," for example, right? Gatekeepers aren't stupid, if I'm being honest. They're not. Receptionists are not stupid, right? They're humans, they're people. And if you do one thing over and over again, they realize. So just be honest. Just be honest and transparent. And you'll be surprised how many gatekeepers are welcoming and appreciate you picking up the phone and asking for something. So a pitch I like to use, and it works really well, and I've used it for years, to be fair. And I have examples on YouTube of me doing cold calling all the time, right? So it evidently works because it's me doing it live for you guys and showing you guys how it works. And that is that when I pick up the phone, I will say something like, "Oh, hey, Rebecca, wondering if you could do me a favor. I just need whatever that is," right? That very quick line, what I'm doing here is I'm saying I've taken the person's name, I've mentioned myself, and I've mentioned what I'm going to do. Oh, and by the way, I just mentioned, "Oh, I wonder if you can just do me a favor," right? I'm not trying to get one on the gatekeeper. I'm not trying to make it out like the gatekeeper is crap and, I'm some boss man and, they should put me forward. I'm not doing that at all, right? And I'll tell you something. If you can build a relationship and a rapport with a gatekeeper, you'll be surprised how much information they will end up giving you that will help you break into a business, that will help you get business, with companies, because you are doing something that not many people do, and that's build a relationship with a gatekeeper. In fact, one of the biggest companies I ever broke into, I broke into them because I was actually being nice to the gatekeeper. And what the HR manager would do is she would call the gatekeeper and ask the gatekeeper, "By the way, was that person a nice person when he spoke to you?" Imagine the HR person would do that. They would actually ask the gatekeeper or the receptionist. I call them a gatekeeper because it's a sales term, but in a more respectful way, I would obviously call them a receptionist. And so a receptionist, she would ask and say, "Is this person actually speaking nicely? Is this a nice person?" Because a lot of the times people be a bit abrupt and rude to the receptionist, and those aren't the people that companies want to work with. If now the receptionist is talking to the director, if it's a PA, if whatever sort of thing, soon it will come out that you're not a nice person to everyone. And so your aim should always be to nice as you possibly can to every single person. Now, you always want to say something like, if the person's busy, it's not a problem at all. When do you think I can give a call back? They might give you a time, whatever sort of thing. No issues. Couldn't do me a favor, could you? Can I get an email address? I'll send them an email, and then obviously I'll just have a little call maybe on Tuesday when you're saying they're available. I'll call back then. Always ask, right? something like, one, you'll obviously get the email address so you can send them an email. Number two, when you say something like, can you let me know when they're, next available? And let's say she says, he's out of the office today, he'll be back tomorrow, right? I would say something like, okay, no problem. By the way, is morning usually better for him or afternoon? I'll say something like that. And let's say she says, afternoon should be better. Fabulous. Rebecca, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'll give a call tomorrow afternoon. Now, you call next day afternoon and you say, hey, Rebecca, I spoke yesterday. I know you obviously said I could speak to Mark today in the afternoon. Is he around? She still might say he's not around. Listen, Rebecca, not a problem. I know he's a busy individual. You reckon I should try a little bit today, a little bit later today, or will tomorrow be better? Again, she'll say tomorrow or a little bit later today. Becca, just forgive me. I know you don't want to be taking these calls too much, but obviously I'm just trying to get through to Mark as well. She's already thinking about this, that he might be getting a little bit annoying. So you address it straight away. You say, look, I know you don't want to pick up the phone. I know you've probably got a ton of better things to do, but obviously I'm trying to do my job as well, and I need to speak to Mark about X and X. Just something like that. Something which also, by the way, really works is when you're sending an email to say something like, Rebecca, by the way, could you do me a huge favor? I'm going to send him an email. Obviously, I'll try to call back tomorrow, but it would do wonders if you could just let him know to keep an eye out for an email from Abu Musa about whatever. It works like a charm. So guys, a couple of tips on gatekeepers and how to get through to them. Now, when you're speaking to the decision maker, it's very, very important that you're speaking to the person that does actually deal with what you're trying to sell them. Okay, obviously you should have done some research before. When I say some research, not too much. Don't spend hours and hours doing research on one company that you should call. That is obviously pointless and it's wasting time. So you should do some research, very little bit. Make a list of companies you need to speak to, whatever the business is, whatever the service you're looking to provide. And then when you're speaking to the decision maker, you then want to go over, look, I'm just trying to understand what are the current problems that you're facing at the moment. What can we help you with? Ask open-ended questions, figure out the problems, and so on and so forth. Now, if you have a product or a service that you're trying to sell in, so for example, for a recruitment company, we're trying to sell in a product, which is a candidate. For example, an engineer looking to start work for an engineering company. If that's the case, then you obviously want to say something along the lines of, I've got this really good engineer, he's got this experience, actually local to you. Do you know if this is something you might be in the market for, right? You might get 10 companies that will say no, but you will get one company that will say yes. And if you get a company to say yes, you're making £10,000, £6,000, £7,000 easily. So it's all well and good, and you definitely should. Now, I'm going to mention the branding sign and how you should brand your company, your services, and so on and so forth, because that's actually very crucial to how you make money and how you can actually have sales come into you, right? And so placing yourself a certain way is crucial in any sort of sales. How to do that, I will go through that after I go through the objections. And so let's go over the 5 most common objections in any sales. Now, before going over all these objections, of which there are 5, I want to make sure that you guys understand something and take it step by step. This part, it is very crucial for you to remember the pain points for the client. And it's very important for you to remember the problems the company, the customer, the person was having. What are the problems? The objections. The way you solve the objections is by remembering the pain points, though we will go through that. So one of the biggest objection is always price, right? So here, let's say the company says something like, well, look, price is a big problem. And so here you would say something like, look, I completely understand, our services aren't cheap. That's fair enough, but we're good at what we do. And for me, I know that you're having problems in X and X and X. And it would be it would be in my best interest to make sure that these don't exist anymore, so that, remember when I said, how is that affecting you as a business? So that you're not having your business not make money, you're not having a loss in your business. Look, for me, we understand, I think it's fair to say that this is costing your business a lot more than our service. And by the way, it should, right? Because any solution should be saving the company time or money. It's either time or money. Remember that, right? So I obviously, if you don't have the right person, if it's marketing, whatever, we know that we're going to try and make you more money, or we are going to save you time, which is obviously going to save you money. And so I know we're a little bit on the expensive side, though for us, if we can solve your problems and if we can make everything smooth for you and we can save you time as well as make you more money, then I'm fairly sure that our services are completely worth it. Reiterating, by the way, the problems. Now, if they're still adamant that the price is too, I understand that, but the price is still too high. Let's say whatever you're charging, and this is why the negotiating course is going to be very, very useful for you guys. And again, let me know in the comments, please, if this is of use. But here you would say something like, look, not a problem. And you would maybe negotiate on other things. Maybe you negotiate on the contract. Maybe you negotiate on the service you're providing. And again, I'm going to go through this. I need a whole 2 hours maybe on just going over negotiations with you guys. But here you would say, you would negotiate with them. And just to help you guys, remember, please subscribe to the channel so that when I make a negotiating course, you benefit from that. But when you're negotiating down, and let's say your price is £5,000, you would never go down to, okay, you know what, for you, I would do £4,000. That's the worst way of negotiating. You will drop it down to maybe, look, it's £5,000. I don't want to reduce our service. I don't want to reduce the quality of our service. I want to make sure you get the right quality. That's the main thing for me, because that will mean that I am able to save you time, make you more money, whatever it is, whatever your product and service is, right? I'm able to do that, reiterating what you're going to do that. And so based on that, look, I'll do it for £4,850, but that really is pushing it. Here, what you're doing is it's very important for you guys to understand this. See, if you reduce from 5,000 to 4,000, you've devalued your product or service very quickly. But actually, if you go from 5,000 to 4,850 and you've made it out like it's a big deal, you've kept the value of what you are providing, which again will help you in the future, because if you continue to do business with this customer over the long term, bearing in mind, if you do another 10, 15, 20 deals would mean an extra £3,000. And so every £100, everything, it matters. And more importantly, it doesn't devalue you. It's not always about the money. It's also about how you come across as a company, which, by the way, comes into the branding side. And that is exactly something we're going to cover as well. Another objection often is we already use another company or, we use another product or a service or something like that. So there's a competitor basically involved. So how would you address this issue? Well, if you've got another competitor, one, understand this, guys, right? If they're using someone else and they are speaking to you, then the likelihood is there is interest from them, because they're not going to waste time speaking to you if they're using someone else. It's fair to say that, right? But more importantly, here again, what is the important part is understanding what the problems were and what the competitors weren't doing well. That's why you were asking them what you were asking them before. And so here you would say, well, look, I know you're obviously having these current problems. I understand that, they're not delivering on this and this and this. And obviously that's affecting you as a business. So I'm not saying drop them, but I am saying use us and see how we do, because we might be able to save you a lot of time, make a lot more money. And it's fair to say, Mark, say the name. And then here you would say something like, and it's fair to say, Mark, I think I've understood your problems and I've understood what issues you're having, where, maybe the other business doesn't understand it. I've taken my time out to understand what's going wrong, where the problems are, and how that's affecting you as a business. So I would say I'm in a good position to now solve those problems. My question is, does the other business even understand what the problems are? Because if they did, they would have just solved them. So look, it's a question, I think it's with you, right? I am looking to solve the problems you're having. I know it's affecting you as a business. We are able to do that. More importantly, I understand the problems and I've taken the time out to understand what's going wrong. Then you would go into close, which obviously we will talk about the close at a later point as well. Now, number 3, a lack of urgency. Often a company, it might not be the number one priority. And here again, you want to talk about the problems, you want to talk about how that's affecting the business, and then you want to reiterate the solution that you're going to provide. You would say something like, look, I know you're having problems in this, I know it's affecting your business here. But look, it's fair to say if this doesn't go resolved and if you don't take action, we know the business that doesn't take action obviously misses out and they start falling behind. So I guess I'm trying to get you to take and be proactive rather than be reactive. I don't want you to miss out on the business that your neighbors or the competitors take. I'm trying to help you here. And so, we've gone over the problems. These are the problems that you mentioned, whatever they are. It's affecting your business in this manner. For me, what's stopping you signing on the dotted line? And this, by the way, goes into the close. So I'm going to keep that to the side. But the lack of urgency usually comes from reminding them again about the problem, how it's affecting their business, and in essence, how much it's costing the business, right? Or how much you can save the business. Talking about the numbers actually is very crucial in this part of when a client is having a lack of urgency. Talk about the numbers, how much you can save them, how much you can make them, how much free time you can make for them. These things are crucial to making someone understand exactly what benefit you can bring to them as a business. Well, as you guys can see, I had to change my clothes. I went to the gym, freshened up a little bit, and we're good to go again. And we're going to continue giving you as much value as possible. And so right now, I want to go over an introduction call. The first call, getting past the gatekeeper. I know I've gone over, but let me add some meat to the bone of how your first call should sound. How should your first interaction sound? And what sort of things should you say? Now, take notes, write this down. Go back if you have to. But I want to give you some examples of if you were to call someone, if you were to speak to someone, if you were to meet someone, what are the sort of things that you want to address straight away? In essence, what you're doing is telling them what value you can provide. So what value can you provide to the person and what problem can you solve for them? Now, bearing in mind, you have to do this as quick as possible because people don't have time. You need to give them value. You need to tell them where you're calling from, who you are. And in essence, you need to sort of build that trust very, very quickly. Now, I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. Saying things like reiterating the person's name is massive. Mentioning something like, I know you're based in, and mentioning the location, the street, or even saying the company's name. It's very powerful. It makes it very, very personal, whether that be on the phone or whether that be you are meeting them face to face. So for example, if I was to meet a business face to face, or if I was to see a customer as such, then I would say something like, you're based in Heathrow, Hounslow, you're based in Reading, what's the location like? Is there traffic? Is there a lot of traffic around here? I would build rapport on something, basically. Having said that, if we keep it to the call, because I know we've gone over different parts of the sales process, and if we just talk about the call and when you speak to a business initially, the introduction call, then the point is this: you need to go over who you are, where you're from, what value you're bringing to the business, and why and who you need to speak to. I'm going to give you an example of an introduction call, which actually does very, very well on social media. I've heard it a lot on TikTok. I've heard it a lot on Instagram. I've heard it a lot on YouTube, and I know where it somewhat comes from. I think so anyway. Let's play it, and hopefully you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about.
I'll leave a voicemail cut off if he doesn't answer.
Hello, speaking.
Oh, hello. I'm going to be honest with you. This is actually a cold call. Would you like to hang up or let me have 30 seconds?
It depends what it's about.
Well, look, okay, so let me have 30 seconds, and if you don't want to talk to me at the end, we can end it there. Sound fair?
Yeah, fine, yeah.
All right, so look, I typically...
Now here I'm going to say something. This is one of the worst ways you can make a call to a business when you are trying to win some business. So if you have thought about making a call like this, stop immediately. Now let me tell you why. Because what the individual does is gives the option to the business for them to be able to say yes or no. Again, remember what I said. When you're going to ask a question, make an open-ended question and make it where the business speaks more than you. If you find you are asking the questions and they're replying with a yes or no, that is not a good sales pitch, sales call, or sales process. You always ask open-ended questions, because understand something, and I'm going to add more meat on the bone here. When you're asking open-ended questions, it means the client ends up speaking more. And sometimes it's not actually the answer that you're looking for where the golden nugget is. And the golden nugget is in essence something where the client gives you some information which you can use of value, which could be of benefit to you later on down the process of when you're maybe closing or maybe when you're negotiating. So golden nuggets are super important. And if a client is talking lots and lots and lots, they might end up talking to you about a problem, an issue, and which might help you with basically closing them in the future. So now what this individual does is they ask the question and they basically tell them it's a sales call. Can you speak to me for 30 seconds? Yes or no. You're not giving any value. You haven't given any value. You haven't really spoken about what the business is in regards to. Now, yes, the person actually has some success. Let me explain something. If you make 100 calls and you get success once, does that mean it's success, or does that mean that you have failed 99 times? If something is logical, then you go for the logical approach, even if something works once or twice. Because if you can make something work 10 times or 12 times, then you do that. And my cold calls are on social media. You can see them for yourselves. I've made, cold calling work many a times. And if I've called 10 businesses, 5 of them have, been happy to do business with me. And that is crucial here. It's crucial to understand. Just because something works once doesn't mean it works always. And actually there are better ways to do things. So what do? Well, you call, you mention your business's name. So, hi, it's Abu Musa. I'm calling from ABC Limited. Is that really necessary? No, it's not. But mention it because I think, it's probably, you don't want to sound like you're just an average person, right? So, hi, Abu Musa. I'm calling from ABC Limited. I like to say something like, wondering if you can help me out on something. Wondering if you can do me a little favor. I need some assistance on something like that. It softens it up a little bit. And so it makes it out like you need something done and you need that person's help on something. And usually this works amazing for the gatekeeper. Then I would say something like, now, if I'm a recruitment company, if I'm a marketing company, if I'm whatever sort of company and I'm selling a software or whatever I'm doing, right? I would just say something like, I know you guys use X. I know you guys do this. I'm actually calling in regards to the value. You give the value. So for example, I would say something like, I've got a really good candidate. He's looking for work at the moment. Or I might say something like, I know you're in the market at the moment. You're not creating social media content. We actually help businesses create some marketing content. I think this would be great for you guys. Who could I speak to? For example, so you tell them the value and who do you think I can speak to? Who's the right person to speak to? Give value and then ask the question, who can I speak to? And that person will obviously, you're going to have a lot more success because again, you're giving them value and you're telling them exactly what you can do for them. And then you're asking who you can speak to. Now, bearing in mind, this is a complete cold call and you haven't spoken to the business before, anything like that. If you are now going to speak to the decision maker, remember, go back to exactly what I said previously. What is crucial is for you guys to understand the problem. Where is the business going wrong? How can you help the business? But more importantly, how are these problems that you are trying to solve for them affecting them as a business? And how can you make the business's life easier? If you can work that out, you are going to close this business. Now, we're going to go over the closing part, but I want to go over 1 or 2 more objections for you guys, as I promised I would. So let's go over 1 or 2 more objections and how we would deal with them. Now, a objection that people feel like may come up a lot, which probably doesn't come up more than you think, but it can come up. And I will address it for you guys because I think it will make you a little bit more confident when making calls. And that is, why would we use you? You're not really that experienced. You've not been in the market for that long. Who are you? Maybe you're a one-man band, etc., etc., etc. You have to understand something here. What is the client actually worried about? And what are their reservations about, more importantly? I would address this in a way where, let's say, Mark is speaking to me and it says, look, Abu Musa, how long have you been in the industry? And is this something that you've been doing for a long time? I would put that question back on Mark, and I would say something like, look, Mark, let me understand this. Is experience the biggest issue for you, or is it something else? And are you worried about something? I would ask a question with a question, and more importantly, because I would want to get down to the actual problem. And the problem is never actually the problem that they initially say. You ever had a conversation with someone and they say, it's not you, it's me? It's always you. You're always the problem. I promise you guys. So you need to get down and really understand what the problem is. And so I would say something like, look, Mark, completely understand, you've got a couple of reservations. What is the actual problem, or what is holding you back? Let me make sure that I'm addressing every single point as best as I possibly can. Now, I'll address the fact that I haven't been in the industry for long and it's only me and, we're not a huge company. I will address that. But is there something else? And is there an actual question behind why you're asking me this question? Let's be open here. Let's be transparent. Because you'll be surprised. At least half the time, there probably is another reason as well with any objection. And I would use this questioning a lot, to be fair. Now, what I would also say is, Mark, do you know what the thing is? You could work with a company that has 1,000 employees, 500 employees, and they obviously, if they have 500 employees, they probably have 5,000 companies that work with them. And therefore, Mark, your company is a number to them. But your business is crucial to my business for it to survive, and we're starting off, which means, by the way, I can give you a lot of time, which not many people can give. Your company is very important to my business, and so I completely understand. You may feel like I've not been in the industry for long, and I've not been doing this for many years, but I have time on my side, and I am willing to put in the effort, which, by the way, not a lot of people are willing to do. So what you will get with me is a personal experience. I will put in the time. It will be one which is customizable to yourself, because again, I don't have to spread myself thin with tons and tons of other companies, which is exactly where mistakes happen. And so the point is this: you're making your weakness a strength, and never feel like a weakness is just a weakness. There's always strength behind it. Remember, just because you haven't been doing something for so long, just because you don't have hundreds and hundreds of employees behind you, doesn't actually mean it's a negative. Actually, you are able to provide a service which is perfect for that individual, because you can give them time, you can pick up the phone in the evening, you can make things happen which another company can't do. You don't have that many processes. And so if you need to pull strings for this company, you will make it happen. And I know, to be fair, this is a question that you guys often think, and when it comes to a lot of businesses, that why would a business work with me when they have all these other companies that have tons and tons of experience, tons of people? But actually, the reality is this: if you're willing to put in the effort, and if you're willing to take calls when other people aren't willing to take calls, and if you're willing to focus on one or two clients, that is actually how you will end up making a lot of money. And this is actually something that worked for me. Now, I started my own recruitment company when I was 25 years old, and obviously now I'm 32. And one of my early clients ended up working with me for 5, 6, 7 years. There for a long time. And so why was that? And that was actually because I would put in effort with them where no one else was putting in effort. A lot of other companies would basically have 3, 4, 5 companies that they would work with at least per person. And for me, I focused on one company for, I would say, a year. Now, I did work with other companies. I did have other companies and jobs that I work with, but my ultimate focus was this one company where I knew I could make 20, 30,000 pounds a month, just them. I could make 20, 30,000 pounds a month with this one client, and I made a lot of money with this one company. Why? Because I would over deliver on the service. And even with this company, by the way, it got to a point where they felt like, you know what, this guy is breaking his back for us, and so we will give him the work because it makes sense to give it to him rather than anyone else. Slowly, I started having the conversations of, look, I don't want you using anyone else. Use me so I know that I can commit to you and I can give you all my time and make sure that I'm delivering the best service to you. Now, I can only do that if I know you're not going to anyone else. If you start using other people, then it's difficult for me because I then start having to look at other clients as well. Now, that worked really well, and it meant that I made a lot of money with this one company in terms of recruitment. By the way, again, like I've told you guys, we do teach people how to start their own recruitment company. And so the link's in the description. If you're looking to start your own recruitment company, it's something we teach. Leave your details in the opt-in page and we will try to help. Now, this isn't necessarily an objection. I would say this is an objection as well as it helps with the closing part as well. And so it'd be a good point to transition from objections to closing. And then obviously we can talk about branding, because I think branding is self-explanatory in terms of what it is, but how you can make it effective in terms of sales is actually crucial. So an objection that often will come up is, it's an objection, it's a fob off, or whatever it is. But the point is this: the client or customer or someone will say to you, I'm going to think about it and come back to you. Now, that one line could mean you either end up closing them or you let this business fly away. And sometimes it's okay to let that business go, but you don't let it go without asking the actual reason. So if someone says to me, I need to think about it, my response would be, not a problem. Look, more than happy for you to think about it. But let me ask you the question. What are the 3 things stopping you right now from signing on the dotted line? So if there are any questions, I can help you, with the answers. And in essence, what you're looking to do here is everyone has objections. Everyone has things that they're thinking about. There's always a problem somewhere. You just need to find out where the problem is. By the way, often there's an objection and someone might just say price. but that's its price as well as something else. Its price is, maybe there's two other things. Someone might say that, they need something, a service in for 2 months later, and they don't really want to act upon it right now, but they don't want to say that, so they just say price. The point is this: when you say to someone, what are the 3 things stopping you right now from signing on the dotted line? You'll get 1 which is waffle, 2 which is probably roughly right, and 3 which is most definitely right, because they can't think of something else, and you've just put them on the spot. And that works like a charm. So they'll say something like, look, I would say price is 1. 2, look, I'm just a little bit unsure. I don't know if you can deliver the service or not. 3, I'm not sure if it's going to work for us, for example, right? And maybe number 3 is the actual reason and the actual objection that you need to hound down on and sort of get them comfortable with. And I'm not saying the third is the objection, but I would definitely focus on number 3, because number 3, they couldn't have made it up. They had to come up with it quite quickly. And this is where you need to be a good listener and understand which one you feel like really is important to them, as well as maybe you want to ask them the question, which one is the most important thing to you? And then here, right, this all comes down to closing. What you want to do is this. Say to Mr. Mark, right, you've got these three objections. Let me ask you the question. If I can solve these 3 issues for you, if I can solve them and I can give you the answers that are obviously what you're looking for, are we okay to sign on the dotted line? What I just did there is I am going to now solve these issues for them. Once I know the problems, I can give them the solutions. But more importantly, I pushed them and I pushed him to say, this doesn't make any more sense now. If I can agree to solve these issues for you, I assume you're going to sign on the dotted line, because there's nothing else. Now, that might sound a little bit pushy. I understand completely. But you're not giving them the option. You don't say something like, okay, no problem, we'll speak tomorrow, day after, week later. Because remember something. If in the whole part of this video you have learned something, add something else to your notes. Time kills all deals. What that basically means is the longer something goes on, the less chance of it actually going through. And so you want to try to close someone as quick as possible, not because you are trying to be pushy, but because if they're showing some interest, you should look to close them quite quickly. And that is actually how you're going to make money and increase the chances of you finding success in sales. So say now the client's gone over their objections and they've gone over what their problems are, and you've basically put it on them now and said, are you okay to sign on the dotted line? As long as I can come up with a solution for these problems. The assumption now is that the client should, in essence, close. And the close is actually very easy now, because you've dealt with all the problems. You've reiterated what you're going to do. And at the point of close, I again would remind them of the problems they have. Remember, this whole sales process is giving them a solution to the problems that they already have. That is, sales. You understand the customer's problem and you are giving them a solution. Now, it's very, very easy for me to just sum it up in one sentence, but that's not the reality of sales, and implementing it and executing it is actually very far from that. So once you understand the problems and once you understand how that problem is affecting the business, now it comes down to closing, and you're going to deal with the problems that the client has. You're now going to emphasize the problem again. At the time of closing, you're going to say, right, Mr. Client, I just want to make sure that we're going to, let's go over the sales process again, and we're going to make sure that we cover everything here. So you would say something like, your problems were, this and this and this. And I know obviously that is affecting your business in a negative way. And obviously it means that maybe you're leaking money, maybe whatever, you're saving time. So what we're going to look to do is we're going to do this and this and this, and that obviously is going to save you money. That's going to increase your time, and hopefully that's going to help your business overall. Now, you had a couple of objections which we have said that we will come to a solution with, and I'm going to solve them with this and this and this. So look, after all this conversation, hopefully you understand exactly where we stand and hopefully where you stand. Am I all right to send the contract to you for us to get sorted so I can basically get going? Because look, I don't want to delay on the problems that you already have, and obviously that is affecting your business. I don't want to delay on that too long. When do you think you can get that back to me? Important, and a very, very important part. You don't just leave a contract. You don't send a contract. You don't send terms. You don't do anything. You don't, you say, when do you think you can get that back to me? You don't say, get that back to me when you can. No. Big mistake, rookie mistake. You say, when can you get that back to me? And they say something like, I'll get it back to you in the next couple of days. Look, Mr. Client, not a problem. I just need to let the team know as well. I need to let the credit team know. I need to let the, other guys know as well. So if you could just give me a day, then at least I can let them know what day you can get that done for me by. Let's say it's Wednesday, and they say, look, I'll get it done for Friday for you. Not a problem. Mark, look, I know you might get busy, so I'll leave you to it. I'll expect the contract signed back, and then, I want to get going for Monday. So get that back to me for Friday so we can get going for, kick off on Monday for you. What you're doing there is, the reason you're asking for a day is so if the client doesn't get it signed by Friday, you're going to call on Monday and be like, oh, by the way, I know you said you're going to sign it on Friday. It didn't come to me. I let the team know, and they haven't received anything as well. So I wasn't sure where we stood. So are you right to get that back to me? So obviously we can sort it out. See, if you don't get a time, if you don't get a day, then you can't hold them accountable. Right? And you want to be able to hold them accountable. You should send something across to me. And that comes with everything. Whether that's you organizing a meeting, whether that's you expecting something in an email, that could be a job description, an email, some sort of paperwork, whatever it is. Always say to the client, always say to the customer, when do you think you can get that back to me? And what sounds amazing is if you can even say, if you could get that to me before 3 p.m. and if not, then I'll give you a call at 5 o'clock and just, and give you a little nudge and make sure that it's sorted out before the weekend, for example. Because that again emphasizes the fact that you can give them a call at 5 o'clock on Friday. So when you do call, you don't look like a bad person. Now, hopefully you guys are getting tons and tons of value in the course, and I genuinely hope that it's been beneficial to you guys. But one of the most important parts of the sales process is branding, which is something I'm going to cover now. Before I do that, I just want to say that a lot of the things that I teach today, I've tried to give you as much value as possible. And this probably, and I don't know exactly how long it's going to be because only my editor would know that, but I assume that it will probably be around the 2-hour mark for you guys, which probably has taken about 4 hours of recording for myself. And to give you guys an idea, I actually have a 5-hour sales course on the Teach You platform. So if you guys have benefited from this, I know you definitely will benefit from the sales course on Teach You, which again, for the first month is just £1.99. And we have other experts that teach sales there, business development, UI, UX, we have people teaching Python. We have people teaching how to start your own SaaS company. We have people teaching marketing, how to start e-commerce, and so much more. There's a lot of information on there, and it is just £1.99 for the first month. So if this has been of benefit, then you can only imagine how double this video would have been of benefit. And again, for £1.99, I'm sure it's a steal, and I'm sure it's a lot of value. So again, link in the description if it is something of interest to you guys. Now, how important is branding? If you can get your branding right, the truth is you will sell products without even doing sales. And I mentioned this right at the end of the course, because actually all of this is very important in terms of your brand will be placed there where you are solving a problem for customers, for clients, or whoever you're solving the problem for. And actually you're giving them a solution. But branding is crucial, because actually a t-shirt from a Primark and a t-shirt from a designer brand probably is not that actually different. But the reality is the designer t-shirt sells for 10 times more money, probably more actually, probably sells for 30 times more money compared to the Primark shirt because of branding, right? Apple products are much more expensive than other products in the market because of branding. Today, some of the retail stores, some of the clothing stores, some of the designer brands make way more money than the normal Matalan, Primark, etc., etc. Why? Because one, they keep their money high, they brand well, and they are desirable. Something which I mentioned throughout the course, if something is easily accessible, it becomes less desirable. Rolex today is massively desirable and the price of it is very high, and the secondary market of it, the price of Rolexes are very high. Why? Because again, they're massively desirable. They're not easily accessible. And it's crucial for you guys to understand this. And actually, if there's anything you've taken from the course, let me know in the comments. And I want you guys to quote the line: if something is easily accessible, it is less desirable. Now, how do you go about branding yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you are deemed to be something which is desirable? I think this is crucial here. See, I'm going to give you guys an idea. I was wearing a top in the beginning of this video, and it was my Golf Lift clothing brand, which hasn't launched yet, but I plan for it to be launching at the end of probably August, first week of September, inshallah. The point though being is this: with that brand, we are trying to brand it in a way where, one, it's not easily accessible. Two, the people that promote that brand, the people that wear that shirt, we don't want that to be from a certain demographic, whatever that demographic is. So I'll give you guys an example now. Today, when you think about Nike tracksuit bottoms and maybe Nike hoodies, you think of a particular type of people, especially if you're in the UK, right? If you think about Gymshark, for example, you think about a particular demographic of people, and you don't think that the same people that wear Nike don't actually wear Gymshark. And that's an assumption, and it's a generalization, but it is somewhat true, and that is done by branding. So, for example, I think what is quite very interesting actually is someone like Ali Abdaal. Has spoken about Gymshark a couple of times, and I'm sure they've done stuff together. Ali Abdaal isn't obviously, a bodybuilder as such, but again, an educated, comes across productivity, talks about business, etc., etc. And now that sort of person is what comes across as the person that wears Gymshark. That is how they are placing themselves in the market. They are branding themselves as not a easily accessible, not a brand for everyone, but for a particular demographic. It all comes down to branding, right? So you want to place yourself, when it comes to your services and when it comes to your products, it is much better for you to create products and services for the rich, because as Alex Hormozi says, and he's right in what he says, that they pay better. They just pay better. And now let's do some maths here. Let's do some numbers, because if you have a product and you have a £10 product and you sell it 1,000 times, right, you're going to make £10,000. Now, £10,000 is a lot of money, right? Let's not shy away from that. But the same way, if you have a product and you have and you're selling it for £70 and you sell it 1,000 times, it's £70,000. So if you sell a product for £10 and you sell 1,000 items a month, you're going to make £10,000. And if you sell an item for £70 and you sell it 1,000 times, you're going to make £70,000 a month. Now, me and you both know that 1,000 products are difficult to sell, but also, are there 1,000 people in the world that can pay £70? The answer is yes. Sometimes you are so focused on making a product or a service good for everyone, what you don't realize is if you niche it down and if you charge more niching it down, the market in itself is big enough for you to make a lot of money. And it all comes down to the numbers. It honestly all does. So, for example, I have a product at some point, inshallah, coming out, which will be priced at about £800-900 a month. Bearing in mind, it's nothing to do with social media as such. Actually, it's more in the tech space, but it would be a minimum of £700-800, depending on how much it's going to cost us, to be fair. Now, that product is £700-800. Okay, 100 plans, subscriptions, or whatever you want to call it, of that product will mean £70,000 a month. Just 100. Now, obviously, right, £700 is a lot of money, and obviously, not the majority of people cannot afford to pay something like £700 a month every single month. But can I get 100 people to pay me £700 a month? The answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes. I can most definitely get 100 people to pay me £700 a month. Which means what, by the way? £70,000 a month. That's crazy. Can I get 200 people to pay me £700 a month? As long as the product and service is obviously worth the £700 a month. The point here isn't whether the product or service is worth the £700 a month. It's not actually that. Because I'm trying to get you guys to open your minds in terms of, is it possible to charge £700 as long as the product and service is worth it? £700 a month? The answer is yes. To businesses, even to customers, to normal people, you can charge £700 and you can get 200 people to pay £700, even if that takes 2 years. It's possible. When you see Chanel, Dior, when you see Louis Vuitton, do you know who their main customers are? It's not the rich. Now, obviously, you want your products and services to be for the rich because they pay better, and to be fair, they probably cause less headache. Having said that, the main customer for these brands is actually the middle class. The middle class is one of the main customers. In fact, those are the guys that make them the most money because the middle class are trying to show that they have a lot of money. That's the reality. That's just how things work. Okay, so you now understand that when you are selling a product or a service, it might not be that you're trying to sell a product or a service to a millionaire or a billionaire, because a billionaire can obviously afford £700 and so can a millionaire, and so can someone who is making £300,000 a year. And that person is probably not a millionaire. I mean, they might have £1 million worth of assets, but you know what I mean. So the point is, I guess, this. Do these people exist? The answer is yes. Are there enough of those people? Yes. And how do you brand yourself for them? This is crucial now. Who I affiliate the product or the service with, and how you see that product and service in the market will be dependent on how much you are willing to pay for that product or service. And that's in essence how it could take you 5 years to fix your brand and the branding identity, but it could take 1 week to absolutely ruin and annihilate the brand. Your brand can go up very, very slowly in terms of the identity, but get ruined within a day, to be fair. And so it's very, 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 very important who you affiliate yourself with in terms of influencers, who you collaborate with, who is wearing your product and service. You guys should know who should be using our service and who should be using our product on a very, very early basis. And that is exactly what's going to make your brand stand out. But the reality is this, guys, right? If you can target yourself and have people who market themselves in a particular way, high end, possibly that make really good high 4K quality content or something like that. Sometimes people who talk about business productivity, but again, there's the chavvy business finance guys, right? Then there are the well-spoken, educated, who clearly know what they're talking about type of business guys. Who you affiliate yourself with is very important towards your brand. Now, if you just give it to everyone and anyone, your brand is all over the place and it's going to be very, very harmful. If you have a niche and you think to yourself, I'm only going to get my brand and product in front of a certain demographic and then work my way up, that's much better. So you start in a very close-knit circle, you niche down like crazy. You have your product in front of a certain type of people. You put it in front of them very, very, very slowly. You start building on that. So don't, with any product or service, just go wide and anyone and everyone. That is more harmful for the long term and you are not going to build a brand. Now, building a brand can mean that people come back, and coming back could mean that your business is valued at much more than it would be if people just bought because of an ad or because of a one-off influencer promotion, for example. So it's crucial that you can build repeat customers and have people coming back to you all the time. And people should feel like if I'm wearing something or if I'm using something, then it's an exclusive thing and you should feel special wearing that thing, right? Make someone feel special and they'll keep coming back again and again. But I think if I'm being very, very honest with you guys, the branding thing is probably going to be a whole new course, a whole new video. And maybe if you guys want me to make a whole new video about that, let me know in the comments below. But I'm going to summarize for you guys. Sales, it's not easy. The theory side, once you learn it, and it's very, very important for you to learn every single part of the sales process and objections and understand how to execute and speak to people. Once you understand that, it's all about practice. The same way I ask you to jump in a swimming pool and just start swimming, it's impossible for you to do. You'll flap your arms and you'll probably drown, right? I can teach you the theory, but now it's a case of you guys putting it into practice and you guys taking the practical steps and taking action. So I hope this video has been of immense value to you guys. That is exactly what I'm trying to do with this channel, give you guys crazy amounts of value, and I will keep making content and keep making courses that are going to give you tons and tons of value. I promise you guys, we've got some crazy videos coming up. So make sure, like this video, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to the channel. That's all from me today.